The crowd roared as Michael Jordan walked onto the court during Sunday's All-Star Game. Jordan had made this stroll 14 times as a player, but this time, he wasn't wearing a jersey. Instead, he was dressed in a black blazer, gray jeans and a giant watch that sparkled with the power of the sun. The announcer's growly voice blared from the Spectrum Center speakers. From North Carolina, the 6'6" guard and chairman of the Charlotte Hornets, Michaelll Jordann, Jordan was ceremoniously handing the All-Star Game ball to Michael Reinsdorf, the president of Jordan's former team, the Chicago Bulls, and the son of Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf. The city of Chicago will be hosting the 2020 All-Star Game. Looking on from the sidelines during the timeout, LeBron James and 25 other uniformed All-Stars watched the two shake hands. It was a symbolic gesture with historical weight. In 2010, Jordan became the first former NBA player to become a majority owner of a franchise. He is currently the only African-American majority owner in the NBA, NFL, NHL or MLB. These handshakes are almost always done with white hands. That fact wasn't lost on the All-Stars that surrounded Jordan on Sunday, the majority of whom were black. Jordan broke through a wall, opening a door that many of those same players hoped to one day walk through. Only days before he stood in front of Jordan in Charlotte, James, the most prominent All-Star of them all, announced to the world his intention to follow in Jordan's footsteps. Last week, through The Athletic, James boldly declared that he was going to own an NBA team one day, just like Jordan. "Ain't no maybe about it," James told The Athletic. "I'm going to do that ******. That's always been the plan. That's what he's gonna do," Dwayne Wade said of James this past weekend. "He's going to own a team. He's been talking about this since we were rookies. I think all of us want to be a part of ownership," Wade said. "It's a goal of mine, it's a goal of Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, and our whole crew. Jordan's power has gone all the way to the top. And today's players are flexing their muscle." Kevin Durant grew up outside Washington, D.C., in Prince George's County, MD, and was 4 days away from his 13th birthday when, on Sept. 25, 2001, Jordan announced he would return to play for the local Washington Wizards. 6 years later, by the time Durant was drafted No. 2 overall in 2007, Jordan had purchased a minority stake in the then Charlotte Bobcats, the first stepping stone to buying the team outright in 2010. As a kid in PGC, Durant never even considered that he could one day be an owner of any NBA team. But Jordan changed all that. Nowadays, Durant is thinking bigger. While Jordan played host at All-Star Weekend, Durant was asked whether he ever dreamed he could possibly own a franchise. "I never thought about it as a kid," Durant said. "You don't even think about the business until halfway and after you accomplish everything you want as a player. Only thing I previously thought about is stepping into this oasis, this freedom as a man, to just do everything I wanted every day, play basketball, play video games, watch TV, eat junk food. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. Now, I've started to think about what's next." Durant, who is almost 4 years younger than James, followed a similar path to James off the court. James built a business empire through agent Rich Paul, manager Maverick Carter and others in his inner circle. So far, James has opened a public school in his hometown of Akron, launched an athlete-owned media company in Uninterrupted, and had at least some role in founding a sports agency, Clutch Sports Management, with his longtime friend Paul. There's also Spring Hill Entertainment, a production company started by James and Carter, which produce James-centric shows on HBO and ESPN and will shepherd James's starring turn in Space Jam 2 in the role once held by Jordan. Last week, Durant debuted his own show, The Boardroom, on ESPN, in which he and his business partner Rich Kleiman will have starring roles alongside ESPN analyst and former No. 2 overall pick Jay Williams. The original series, in a similar vein as James's The Shop, will feature in-depth discussions from icons inside and outside basketball about the sports business. It's just one of several projects hosted within 35 Ventures, a company Durant co-owns with Kleiman. Durant has also pledged a $10 million donation to open the Durant Center, a new facility seeking to increase the number of low-income and first-generation college students in the Prince George's County public school system. Durant, like James, also has interest in adding an NBA team, or a slice of one, to his investment portfolio. The Golden State Warriors forward is just 30 years old and has made $160 million in salary. He knows it's going to take a lot more than that to get into the ownership business. "If I make enough money, I would for sure think about it," Durant said. "I would love to. It's much easier said than done." In 2010, Jordan successfully made a $275 million bid, plopping down $30 million in upfront cash, according to the Charlotte Observer, to purchase the team from Bob Johnson, the co-founder of Bet and the first African-American majority club owner of a major American sports league. Jordan's investment was a shrewd business move. This month, Forbes valued the Charlotte franchise at $1.25 billion. The money is one thing, but Durant stressed how significant it is that Jordan, as an African American, was able to smash through that glass ceiling that, for so long, had been colored white. "I don't want to understate that when it comes to Michael Jordan, it's so hard to break into that club of being an owner," Durant said. "Because that's what it is, it's a boys' club. It's a bunch of friends that make those deals together. So when you see a black man from North Carolina that started off as a basketball player rise up and own a basketball team, it's very inspiring." Count Portland Trail Blazers star guard Damian Lillard among those who drew inspiration from Jordan and his business pursuits that empowered him to own a team. "I think he's definitely opened the doors for it, just letting you know it's possible," Lillard said. For him, the great Michael Jordan as a player, but on the business side he was the first guy to really do it. Especially as an African-American man. For him to do that, now you see so many guys try to establish that business away from basketball. For so long, the business of basketball has been disproportionately white. In 2015, Drive. Richard Lapchick, the director of the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sport at the University of Central Florida, found that the NBA was a leader in the sports industry for racial and gender hiring practices, receiving top scores in men's pro sports. However, a survey of the league's org charts showed that, despite those strong marks, the higher and higher one looks, the fewer and fewer African Americans appeared. According to the UCF study, 74.4% of all NBA players identified themselves as African Americans or black compared to just 33.3% of their head coaches, 19.4% of GMs and 3.3% of owners, with Jordan the sole majority owner. In 2019, after Tyronn Lue was fired by Cleveland earlier this season, the coaching percentage fell to 23.3%, or 7 of the 30 jobs. For any player looking at positions of power in their sport, that's not an encouraging sign. Just last week, James spoke out against what he sees as racial bias against his African-American representatives. Following a trip to take in a Duke Virginia game, James and Paul were chided for what many saw as a recruiting trip of projected 2019 no. 1 overall pick Zion Williamson. In talking to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, James fired back. "A recruiting trip? I didn't talk to anybody," James said. "They're only saying that because it's Rich. Now, Rich is a threat to everybody, and they look at it and they want to keep trying to jab my agent and jab my friend. And what is he doing that's wrong? They don't say that about no other agent when other guys go see players. They don't say that about no other agent, but my guy because he's a threat," James went on. "And he's African American, too. Throw that in there, asterisk. Not every star sees themselves as a future NBA owner." Kemba Walker, who plays for Jordan's Hornets, "I wasn't about that life," telling NBC Sports, "No sir, just not my thing. After praising Jordan's business efforts, Lillard just shook his head when asked if he'd like to be an owner or run an NBA team. Golden State Warriors shooting guard Klay Thompson said owning a team would be fun, but it takes a lot of capital to do that. "I'll just stick to owning a fantasy team one day." But just about every player that spoke with NBC Sports praised James and Jordan for empowering the younger generation to think big. James and Jordan have not just asserted their own power, but have also elevated people of color to powerful positions. In 2006, Jordan hired Charlotte Hornets, then Bobcats, president of business operations Fred Whitfield as the NBA's only African-American chief operating officer. Whitfield has worked closely with Jordan for decades, initially as an attorney under Jordan's longtime agent David Falk. On Saturday, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver name-checked Whitfield during his opening remarks at his annual All-Star press conference. In 2012, while with the Miami Heat, James hired Paul, who had been working under Leon Rose at CA, to be his agent. Paul left CAA to start up Clutch Sports and in short time has become one of the league's top power brokers. Since leaving CAA, Paul has added stars such as Davis, John Wall and Ben Simmons to his clientele. According to Hoops Hype Tracking, Paul currently represents 16 players with total salaries amounting to $194 million, the fifth highest total among all agents. Phoenix Suns guard Devin Booker, just 22 years old, and a participant in the All-Star three-point shootout for a second time, admired James and Jordan's business acumen, but also noted their support staffs. "They're opening doors," said Booker, who is not one of Paul's clients. "It's never enough for those type of guys, and I'd like to think of myself the same." Expanding their business, expanding their life. And they put the right people around them in the right positions to take care of them. Big shout out to them for changing the game and being an inspiration to us, the younger generation. *******. It's not hard to envision how a franchise owned by James might look. Could there one day be a Banana Boat Inc. investment group featuring James, Wade, Paul and Anthony? Wade hinted at it over the All-Star weekend, and others in the league are connecting the dots. Just as Jordan anointed his longtime associate Whitfield to be the Hornets' president, some in league circles foresee a possible two-pronged brain trust featuring Carter at the head of business operations and Paul spearheading the basketball side. Paul is following a similar path as the current general managers for both James and Durant's teams. Before taking over as the Lakers' general manager, Rob Pelinka was a high-powered agent for over a decade, representing names like Kobe Bryant, James Harden and for a short time, Durant. Warriors GM Bob Myers did the same, spending 14 years as a big-time agent with SFX Sports and Wasserman. Both Pelinka and Myers played college hoops and earned a law degree before entering the agent business. Paul did neither but has amassed an impressive client list and is flexing comparable power just the same. Not everyone likes it, especially those in top managerial levels. Pelicans owner Gail Benson fired the team's general manager the morning after Paul walked out mid-game when Anthony Davis on national television, reportedly vowing to take back control from outside forces, according to ESPN. The president of the Knicks, Phil Jackson, once referred to James's business partners as a posse, a term that James and Carter interpreted as offensive racially coded language meant to minimize their business credibility. "We see the success that we have, but then there is always someone that lets you know still how far we still have to go as African Americans," James said following Jackson's comments. The All-Star weekend was a homecoming for the Curry family, but it also represented something more than that. With Jordan owning a franchise and LeBron making noise about doing the same, it was a statement that black athletes are wielding more power within the game than ever before and opening doors for others to follow. Perhaps one day we'll see James shake hands with Jordan at half court of an All-Star game, not as players, but owners. This year's All-Star Weekend in Charlotte will be a family affair, a celebration of House Curry, if you'll Stephen Curry will participate in the three-point contest with his brother, Seth, a guard for the Portland Trail Blazers, marking the first time that brothers will compete together in the marquee event. Not only that, the Currys will let it fly in the same city where the two grew up. Their father Dell, currently an analyst for the Hornets broadcast team and a two-time three-point shooting contest participant himself, was part of the original Charlotte Hornets team and retired as the franchise's career scoring leader. On Sunday, before the All-Star Game, the NBA will honor Dell at an event for his contributions on and off the court. No mistake about it, the Curry family is NBA royalty and this is their homecoming. Stephen is the two-time MVP and three-time NBA champion who currently leads the NBA in three-pointers per game, 5.1. Seth, now in his fifth season, leads the NBA in three-point percentage, making a blistering 47.5% of his attempts from beyond the arc. Fans are obsessed with their every move. Seth's Instagram account has 1.7 million followers, more than any MLB or NHL star. Meanwhile, Steph led the league in jersey sales for a third straight season and boasts more Instagram followers than the top three most followed NFL stars, Odell Beckham Jr., Tom Brady and Cam Newton, combined. While the Currys changed the game of basketball by weaponizing the three-point shot like never before, they're also the most prominent faces in a fascinating trend. A wave of second-generation NBA players has flooded the league in recent years. This season, there are 27 sons of NBA players, including Steph, Seth, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Devin Booker, Domantas Sabonis and Justice Winslow, among others. The Currys are the patriarchs among a growing family of patriarchs. These days, the term NBA family takes on a new meaning. As Stephen, Seth and Dell act as official and unofficial hosts this weekend in Charlotte, they'll also serve as reminders of the father-son dynamic infiltrating the league's elite. In the All-Star Game itself, Stephen will be joined by fellow second-generation player Thompson. Father Michael won 2 titles with the Lakers. Booker, son of former NBAer Melvin, will join Seth and Stephen in the three-point contest after winning last year's event. Sabonis, the legendary Arvydas is his father, and Jaren Jackson Jr., father Jaren, played 12 seasons in the NBA, will be featured in the Rising Stars game. Al Horford and Kevin Love, though not chosen to participate this year, are all-star mainstays who are also second-generation NBA players. That doesn't even illustrate the full scope of this familial phenomenon. That list of 27 does not count rising star participant and Brooklyn Nets center Jarrett Allen and his father, Leonard, who was drafted 50th overall by the Dallas Mavericks in 1985 but played professionally in Spain instead. JaVale McGee's mother, Pamela, was the No. 2 overall pick in the WNBA's 1997 draft, and his father George Montgomery was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers in the 1985 draft but never played in the NBA. Also outside that 27, Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons, whose fathers played pro basketball in Australia, and Luka Doncic, whose father, Sasa, played pro ball in Slovenia. Both of Lonzo Ball's parents played college hoops and his father, LeVar Ball, once signed with the New York Jets as a defensive end. The Knicks' Kevin Knox is actually Kevin Knox too. His father played in the NFL. Marvin Bagley III is the grandson of two-time All-Star jumping Joe Caldwell and the son of Marvin Jr., who played pro football in the AFL. Lauri Markkanen's father, Pekka, played pro hoops in Europe after playing for coach Roy Williams at University of Kansas. Lauri's mother, Rika, played basketball for the Finnish national team. Dirk Nowitzki's mother, Helga, once played basketball for the German national team while his father Dorg Werner was an elite handball player. The Currys aren't even the only active NBA brothers with a father who played in the league. Jeremy and Jerian Grant are the sons of former NBAer Harvey Grant, who is the twin brother of All-Star and 4-time champion Horace. All these familial links may seem obvious. Height is the leading predictor of NBA players, and that's a genetically linked trait passed on through DNA. In 2016, The Wall Street Journal found that nearly half of NBA players were related to current or former elite athletes. Giants tend to produce giants, after all. Not only that, but the pool of potential NBA fathers only gets larger over time. But this latest boom seems extraordinary. The arrival of Curry in 2009 coincided with an influx of NBA sons. In 2008-09, the list was only 10 names long. During Stevens' rookie season, in 2009-10, he led a group that grew to 16, the most the league had ever seen. The next season, 2 more. Another 3 the following year. By 2014-15, it ballooned to 27 players, where it currently stands. There may be more on the horizon. Oregon center Bol, son of the late Manute Bol, is one of the top prospects in the 2019 draft. LeBron, Bronny James Jr., is still in 8th grade, but he has reportedly received an offer from Duke University already and could reach the NBA right around the time his father turns 40 years. Dwayne Wade's son, Zaire, has already been offered a scholarship by Nebraska as part of the class of 2020. Sharif O'Neal, the son of Shaquille, is at UCLA but sitting out the season with a heart ailment. Cole Anthony, the son of Greg, is the number 2 prospect of the 2019 class on ESPN's 100, and Trace Jackson Davis, son of Dale Davis, checks in at no. 25 Scottie Pippen Jr., Kenyon Martin Jr., DJ Rodman, short for Dennis Rodman Jr., are all highly touted prospects coming through the pipeline. Nature is certainly a big part of the boom, but nurture could also play a pivotal role. More specifically, follow the money. The NBA's business skyrocketed in the 1990s with Michael Jordan and the globalization of the game. In Del Curry's first season, the NBA's salary cap stood at $4.9 million. By the time he retired in 2001-02, it had grown to $42.5 million. It stands to reason that NBA players became substantially richer and therefore able to provide more resources for their children, access to trainers, gyms and specialists, to pursue basketball as a profession. I asked Brent Barry, the vice president of basketball operations for the San Antonio Spurs who played 14 seasons in the NBA, if he could offer up any insight. He and his 2 brothers, John and Drew, both played in the NBA, following in the footsteps of his Hall of Fame father Rick. Brent first pointed out the fundamental role of genetics, but he also made a point to emphasize his mother, Pam. She is the daughter of NBA player Bruce Hale, which makes Brent a third-generation NBA player of sorts. That's when it hits. Does the rise of the father-son NBA combo have more to do with the mother's side? The 1990s saw a boon for high-level female athletics. In 1991, the International Olympic Committee made a ruling that all new sports applying for Olympic recognition must include female competitors. Women's soccer and softball became Olympic sports leading into the 1996 Games in Atlanta. The WNBA debuted in 1997, roughly around the same time as the current influx of NBA sons were born. David Epstein, author of the New York Times best-selling book The Sports Gene, is an expert on the role of nature versus nurture in athletics. He agrees that genetics are the integral part of the rise of father-son NBA players. You have the sons who have potential, the fathers with means and knowledge, and the high desire to follow in dad's footsteps, Epstein says. You have a perfect storm of convergence. Though he hasn't studied this particular finding, he hypothesizes that there are more athletic parent couples than ever before. The athletic supercouples like the McGees, Nowitzkis and Markkanens are becoming more and more the norm. Women haven't really had many sports opportunities for very long at all, Epstein said. You could argue there's a lot more opportunity for elite athlete couples to form than in the past. I'd guess it will only become more common as women get more athletic opportunities. Seth and Steven's father may have been an NBA sharpshooter, but their mother, Sonia, played collegiate volleyball at Virginia Tech and also led her high school basketball team to 2 state championships. Seidel Curry, Stephen and Seth's sister, followed her mother's footsteps and played Division I volleyball at Elon University. Speaking of super couples, she wedded Golden State Warriors reserve guard Damian Lee last year. The Plumlee brothers, Mason, Marshall, and Miles, all reaching the NBA makes more sense when you find out their parents, Leslie and Perky, both played college basketball, Purdue and Tennessee Tech respectively. Boris Dio's mother, Elizabeth, is in the French Basketball Hall of Fame while his father was a former Senegalese high jump champion. It's tempting to focus on the father-son combos of NBA royalty, but the role of both parents, just like with the Currys, must be fully appreciated. ****** 27 years ago, Stephen Curry watched his father compete in the family's first three-point shooting contest. It was the 1992 NBA All-Star Weekend. Vanilla Ice was the halftime act, and Dell was a sharpshooter for the budding Charlotte Hornets, a franchise born the same year as Stephen. Stephen, just 3 years old at the time, was there on the sidelines with his father, getting a front-row view. He even sat on Dell's lap during the contest and watched basketball greats like John Stockton and Drazen Petrovic compete against his father. Nearly 3 decades later, Stephen continues to cement his family's status as NBA royalty. In October, after Stephen scored 29 points, Stephen and Dell surpassed Donnie and Dolph Schayes as the second most points of any father-son combination in NBA history. The Currys, not counting Seth, now have 28,420 points between them, and only Kobe and Joe Bryant's total of 38,895 points stand in front of them. One day, the Currys may well surpass the Bryants as the leading father-son combo. But even if they get there, the Currys might not hold that title for long. Their father-son successors could be in Charlotte, lurking on the All-Star sidelines, just like Stephen and Dell 27 years ago. With the Currys hosting the NBA, the All-Star Weekend in Charlotte is certainly a family affair. If current trends hold, the notion of Team LeBron, in time, may be more than an All-Star Weekend moniker. Anthony Davis is still a Pelican. But just about everything else in the NBA changed this past week. Let's dole out the winners and losers of a crazy trade deadline. Where's Philadelphia 76ers? This team is stacked. The Sixers had 2 needs going into the deadline: a backup center and, more importantly, adding shooting around their 3 stars. They filled both voids, and may have picked up a 4th star in the process. Tobias Harris, as I wrote on Wednesday, is a lesser version of Kevin Durant, a big wing with superb shooting touch. He's an ideal no. 4. A rare player who can excel on and off the ball. They gave up a bunch of promising assets to get the deal done, and owner Josh Harris will pay a stiff luxury tax bill soon, but it's not like Tobias Harris is on the wrong side of 30. He's just entering his prime. Finally, they needed to move on from the Markelle Fultz experiment. Netting 2 picks to replenish their draft assets was icing on the cake. This might be the team to beat out east. Twitter me thumb hurts. Milwaukee Bucks executives were all over the map on this one. Most agree that getting a player like Nikola Mirotic, a super snug fit for the Mike Budenholzer spread offense, is a win. Getting him without giving up a first-round pick is even sweeter. But the idea of Mirotic may be better than the reality. The impending free agent hasn't played in 2 weeks because of a nagging calf strain, an injury likely related to a bad ankle in the same leg. Maybe the Pelicans put him on ice to preserve his trade value, but he has missed about half the season. He'll